All right, everybody, there it is. Nintendo has dropped the first look at the Switch 2 at 8 a.m. Eastern. Obviously, there were a lot of rumors about it happening on the 16th, even without a formal announcement prior to tune in. I was still believing it would happen, but 8 a.m. was actually sooner than I expected, 8 a.m. Eastern, because normally their directs, the soonest they are usually 9 a.m. So I was a little caught off guard, but we'll see what we got. Obviously, it's 2 minutes, 21 seconds, which is pretty short. And it says an update from Nintendo, which is very formal. So I'm thinking maybe it's not like the initial Switch trailer, which was cut into a Super Bowl ad, because an update from Nintendo sounds a little more businessy. But we'll see what we got. Okay. There's the OG. Yeah, it's bigger, as we knew. Okay, pretty slick. There's the new kickstand. I wonder if they're going to show the Joy-Cons from that MouseCon rumor, if that ends up being teased at all here. There's the orange in the little underside of the analog stick, and the rails, which we've seen leaked. They look pretty nice. Oh, there's MouseCon. Oh my god, they're actually doing the dragging them around like a little mice. Oh, that's crazy. They actually showed it. That's sick. I'm so curious how they use that. There's the magnetic rails. But the bezels are better than I expected. Switch 2. Yeah. From some of the leaks, the bezels looked actually bigger than that to me. That's not too bad. They're not nothing, but it's not too bad. Oh! Wait! That's a new Mario Kart, isn't it? That's their first thing they're giving us a glimpse of. That's like the Super Mario Odyssey tease of the original Switch. 2025. I didn't expect any dates or anything here. Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games, as well as Switch games, of course. Both physical and digital. Oh! Nintendo Direct 4-2. Series of hands-on events around the world. Okay, hold on. I need to go back. I want to go to the very end there for a second. Plays both physical and digital Switch games. Certain Switch games may not be supported on or fully compatible with Switch 2. Details be shared on the Nintendo website at a later date. I wonder what those are. Maybe those are just like very weird use cases of like accessory stuff. Like games that rely heavily on very certain weird accessories, with the Joy-Cons being a little different. That could be. I assume all like the major stuff is probably no big deal. And then, okay. So this is big. Obviously, Nintendo Direct, Nintendo Switch 2, 4/2/2025. And I am watching this on Nintendo of America. Yes, Nintendo of America's Twitter. Or, excuse me, Nintendo of America's YouTube. So that is April 2nd. Obviously, I wish that was a European date. I wish that was February 4th. Okay, so let's think about that for a second, what that could mean. I know Nate the Hate, who obviously was the first one to say the reveal will be on the 16th, was saying potentially February or March for like a Switch 2 blowout software showcase. But instead of hitting March, it's like just a couple days, I guess, out of that March window, so pretty close. But he was also hearing May or June for launch. When I see this date, that's what I think. That's what it makes me think. If you remember with the Switch, when they did their big showcase. That was a January 2017 big software showcase in Tokyo. They announced the price, release date, pre-orders opened up at like all major retailers like that day or the next day, depending on where you lived. And so April 2nd, and it was very early in January. And then, of course, the Switch launched on March 3rd. So if this is April 2nd, then if they do another... That was like a little after January, so it was kind of like not even quite 2 full months. So what this would point to is if they have a similar timeline of like, here's our big software, and I assume this is where we'll get the price and everything. If that's what they do, then that would point to late May to June, I guess. That would be if they went for the same timeline as the Switch 1, which is not bad. I'm very okay with that. They even did Tears of the Kingdom, a big release. I pointed out in another video, came out in May. May's a big time. So yeah, it's making me guess at the very end of May or into, the first half or so of June. That's what I would guess. I know some people will probably see that or 2025 there and just go immediately like, oh, that means it's coming out way later. But with the way they're showing this and doing this, I'll just start this over while I talk more. The way they're doing this, the reveal, this does not seem like they want a prolonged marketing cycle. This has like been super tame. They've held everything back as long as possible. So if they're going to do a big Switch 2 show on April 2nd, I can't imagine the release date is more than, 2.5 months at most later than that. And it could even be as early as a month and a half after that. So somewhere in there is, I think, the release date. But yeah, I am a little disappointed that this showing means we have April 2nd, so that's what we have, like 2.5 months of like just sitting on this before we really see games. Obviously, it seems like a glimpse of the new Mario Kart, which is cool, but it was obviously the teeniest glimpse. But obviously, if it was going to come out in, let's say, if it does come out in, May or June, I think is more likely. If they did the software showcase late February, early March, that wouldn't change the timeline if that's when they want to release it, But yeah, this, honestly, my favorite part of the trailer was seeing the MouseCon confirmed in this way. That's super crazy. And it's funny, like, they don't, mention it. Obviously, there's, like, nothing detailed here or anything like that, right? So it's just like, if you didn't know about that rumor or that leak, like, you probably wouldn't think anything of it. It's just like, oh, some fancy graphic. Like, I wouldn't immediately assume the Switch Joy-Con could be used like a mouse if I didn't like already have that in my head. I would have just thought this is like, they think it's cool looking. But I do really like the way the system looks. Obviously, we see the magnetic rails here. I do think it looks pretty slick. It looks a little more OLED-ish to me, like the OLED model, which is more, lean. The bezels are better on the OLED than the original. Like, you can see the bezels here compared to when they show, like, the original, which are much more chunky. I think it's the distance is probably more similar to the OLED. Yeah, that's what I would say. It looks nice. Like I said, the one rumor I had was that there might be a white with like gray where those like blue and orange are. Possibly that was like one of the rumors. I don't know if that'll come to pass, but I'd be interested in seeing a different color. This is obviously very like, with the buttons not being colored and the D-pad, everything being black. This is much more like, I don't know, like more like older look. It's not as colorful. It's just kind of going for like a sleek electronic, but it looks good. But I wouldn't have been opposed to it having more color personally. And there's the Switch 2 logo. Obviously, that's something that's been talked about. That was leaked. It was accurate. The Joy-Con logo with a big 2 and then Nintendo Switch under it. There's the latches on the back of the Joy-Cons that were talked about. People were talking about them being extra buttons, but it just seemed like they're just latches to pop off. And then, I guess this is our first little look at Mario Kart. Obviously not the biggest or best look at it, but I do think, I guess that would be my other big takeaway from this, is seeing this here. Because I know Nate, who, again, since he was the first one to say the 16th and all that, if we go with him, he was saying he believed, he wasn't reporting that Mario Kart would be a launch game, but he said that would be like his guess. And with that being the only game shown here, I kind of have to think that it is. I'm going with that prediction. I talked about it in my last video, what I expected to see, and I said I'm starting to believe that Metroid Prime 4 will be like cross-gen and be like the big single-player game, and then Mario Kart will be like, obviously, like multiplayer, obviously have single-player, but be kind of a more mainstream game and a more core audience single-player game, which would be a pretty good 1-2 punch. So yeah. And then backwards compatibility, which we thought. I'm curious what the certain may not be supported, but I'm assuming, like I said, that's so minimal that it won't really be noticeable by people. But it'll be something for people to doom over if they want to be like, what does that mean? But I don't think it'll be a big deal. So yeah, that's my, I guess, my initial reaction and opinions of what we saw. Like I said, it's not the like hype, like crazy reveal. It's a very tame, low-key, like here's a little quick overview of the hardware. And with all the leaks, that's not ideal because we've already kind of seen the hardware. Like my reaction to it was like, oh, there's the color that we've kind of known about. There's the mouse con that we knew about. So I do think the leaks maybe took a little bit out of it, but this isn't a full-blown like hype thing. They're not doing it that way. Like, this is the date where Nintendo's going to make people hype, Like, this is we're selling you on this thing, April 2nd. That's the big one. And I'm okay with that, especially if it is coming out in, again, I'm going to probably lean towards June, maybe late May. I think it's okay to play it a little slow. There also were rumors about a Switch 1 Direct in early February. We'll see if that rumor comes to pass, but that would kind of make more sense now. I thought the Switch 1 Direct was kind of weird when there were rumors about maybe there's a software showcase for Switch 2 that could be the big Switch showing in like late February, early March. It's like, really, do we need like a dedicated? Could we combine those things? Would it be a big deal? But if they're not doing it until April 2nd, it makes sense that they have other stuff to market and they can't really combine the two because they're too far apart. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Like I said, I'm really excited for the Switch 2. And I think it looks really nice. I love to see the mouse con functionality. I love that they gave us a glimpse of Mario Kart, which to me is like a big tip-off that it's probably in a very early release, likely launch. And I think it looks slick. I think it's a good-looking device. And I'm excited that we now have a date. Like, one thing that's been frustrating about the Switch 2 marketing cycle has just kind of been, or lack of cycle, is us not knowing anything. Like, it's always in the dark. Like, when is something going to happen? So just having this, even if it's a little longer than a lot of people prefer, I think it's like a month later than people really wanted. The fact that we can just say, okay, the Switch 2 is formally announced April 2nd. That's where we might get, like the Switch 1, like here's the first 12 months of software kind of thing. That's very exciting. Like, we have an actual date. We don't need to be guessing constantly. Like, that's the most exciting thing. But yeah, like the trailer itself was very tame. It's not a, pull my hair out. I would have to fake a reaction if I was going to be like, oh my God. But it's still really good to get a lot of confirmation here. And again, I would like to point out this too. I didn't mention it. They're doing a series of hands-on events around the world. They're mentioning this. I think this is also something that points to it's coming out May, June, with the thing being shown in the big direct being in the beginning of April. If they're already kind of advertising hands-on events, they wouldn't do that for like I don't think they would bring that up now for like a late 2025 release. They do this. They did this with the Switch 1 as well. So I have a feeling it's going to be like April 2nd. Here's everything. You can go out and pre-order. And by the way, also 3 weeks from now, Targets and Best so-and-so stores will have units to test as well. That'll be like something they mention in the Direct. So that's my guess. Like I said, I'm really excited for it. I love seeing that glimpse of Mario Kart. I love seeing the mouse kind of confirmed. That was my highlight. I think it looks good. I'm excited that we have like an actual date, April 2nd. Like that's the big one. That's the one that's going to make you pull your hair out kind of reaction. But yeah, overall, like as a reveal of a console, one of the more tame ways you could do it. It kind of reminds me, honestly, of what Microsoft did with the Xbox Series X. But obviously that was at the Game Awards, so like that was kind of like a weird surprise thing, but where they didn't really have much. It was like, here's kind of the box, and then they did like a short like cinematic of Hellblade or whatever. Like this is like, here's just a glimpse of the hardware, and here's a quick little tease of Mario Kart. So, a pretty tame, not what you really want, but like I said, this is more of them just almost making a trailer for the Direct in a way. Like, I feel like they're just giving us the date. This is what mattered. Like, they could have said, yeah, the Switch 2 exists. Tune in on April 2nd. We're going to go, deep on it. And they could have left everything else out, and it would have been okay. It would have been similar, in my opinion. And I'm okay with that. At least we have a good date now. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. If you want to see me continue to follow the, Switch 2, then I would, of course, love it if you subscribed or liked the video. And we'll see you next time.